Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So Celsius Network hosted a 3-hour long Twitter Spaces on October 5th, 2022. And for those of you that have watched the whole thing, that 3-hour long video, you can probably agree that more than half of that was a waste of time, especially on the segment with Alex. So here I am, I'm going to summarize as best of it as I can and hopefully give you my unbiased opinion and my thoughts on the Twitter Spaces. Again, before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you guys give this video a thumbs up below. Also, subscribe to my channel if you want to follow my journey as I try to restart financial independence. Many of you that have been following me know that I have 90% of my assets stuck in Celsius Network, so it does feel like I'm having to start all over again. Anyways, let's get started. So they first started to talk about the Celsius exclusivity period. For those of you that don't know what this means, I will quickly explain. Celsius Network has a 120-day exclusivity period, which I believe was filed sometime in July or August of 2022. So this time period, or this 120 days, will end sometime on November 2022 or December of 2022. During this time, Celsius as a company solely has the right to propose a formal plan. So you've heard of plans from Simon Dixon or others, but all these plans are just noise. Celsius, the company, is the only one during this 120-day period that is able to post something formal to the UCC and finally to the community to get our 50% vote and finally to the judges for their approval. So Zach came on the call. Many of you guys know Zach, especially if you've been watching the Celsius AMA, weekly AMAs on Fridays. So he did mention that he has a plan on the works, which essentially the plan will make us wait for roughly 3 years if we want to be made whole again. So this 3 years is due to the fact that Celsius Network is probably banking on the next bull market whenever Bitcoin or Ethereum hits all-time highs again in order to hopefully unwind its balance sheet and take advantage of higher crypto prices. Because at this point in time, we all know that Celsius Network does have a $3 billion hole. So we are relying on the next bull market of cryptocurrencies to potentially be made whole again. Someone did come on the call and mention, what if people can't wait 3 years? A lot of people probably put their retirement funds into Celsius Network and they can't wait 3 years to be made whole. What if they want or need their liquidity right now? Which I'll get to this point in a little bit. Alex finally came on and he just briefly mentioned that at least half the community has to agree on the plan. So if less than half doesn't agree, then we can't move on. We essentially go back to square one. If this process takes a long time, so essentially a plan gets submitted, less than half agrees, and we go back and forth over and over again, then there is a chance that the judge might call it off and we might just go straight to Chapter 11. So this would be a really bad thing for me and you. Because if we do go to Chapter 11, then more likely than not, we will only recoup roughly between 40 to 60% of our portfolios. So pennies on the dollar. So going back to the retirement question for people that put their money into Celsius Network, especially the retirement money, Alex did give an example. So he did bring up the CX tokens, so they're essentially IOU tokens. So let's say you're distributed 10 CX tokens, you're probably able to liquidate 1 out of the 10 CX tokens if you really need the liquidity. And then the other 9, you can just leave it in the platform until the company generates enough revenue and can liquidate the remaining 9 to you to be made whole again. So some people are asking, why give us CX tokens? Why can't they just give us our Cardano back, our Ethereum back, our Bitcoin back? And the easy answer to this is because right now they don't have it. So let's say you have Chainlink or Cardano in the platform and you want your 1,000 Cardano back. They probably don't have your 1,000 Cardano because they've mismanaged the funds essentially. At this point, they can only give you an equivalent equity or CX tokens or IOUs, whatever they want to call it. Again, this is a very complicated process. At this point in time, making assumptions on this is a complete waste of time in my opinion. The only time we should really dive into the details with all of this is once they finally release the schedule of assets and liabilities. Once they release this, we will finally know if they are valuing our assets in USD at the time of the bankruptcy, or if they're valuing our assets like kind. So let's say we put in 0.5 Ethereum. Are they gonna show 0.5 Ethereum in the schedule of assets and liabilities? Alex came on again for the Twitter Spaces and mentioned that they are prioritizing custody accounts. Someone then asked, where does the revenue come from? Zach mentioned that revenue will come from staking, their mining operations, and other receivables, and he did mention that all of this should be more than enough to run the company. Alex again came on and brought up Salt Lending. He was basically bringing up the fact that they would just want to be bought up or acquired by Celsius Network, given the fact that they do have licenses, which Celsius doesn't have. So Zach finally came on and he did mention that he himself, along with other people, does have a plan to present to us, the community. And he did mention that this plan will come out sometime next week. So I'm actually looking forward to this because at this point in time, guys, we have not seen a plan come out from Celsius Network. We've seen leaks, we've seen IOU tokens, we've seen leaked AMAs from Alex and Nuke, all the founding members of Celsius Network, but we haven't actually seen a detailed plan come out from Celsius Network. You know, I'm tired of seeing plans from Simon Dixon or other people that are sort of outside this whole process. I want to see a plan come straight from Celsius Network to present to us so we can finally vote in it, and then hopefully the UCC also agrees, and then the judge can stamp their vote of approval. And then after this, there's a guy named Joe, and he asks his question about a feasible plan. He wants to know a viable plan with numbers backing it up. And honestly, guys, this is when things went really south. Alex started to go in his usual rumble during his AMAs. Alex said that the mining company and the staking company is enough to make the company whole. And Joe does not agree that the mining company is big enough to make Celsius Network whole again. Then they started to discuss the numbers of mining, capex, operating expenses, all of that. So once Joe started to go into details about the numbers, Alex, like usual, started to become a bit defensive and talking over people. And he essentially said that he can't really give out the numbers and that we have to trust on a guy named Anthony that runs the mining business. This was the very annoying, worrying, and laughable part of the Twitter Spaces AMA. Alex finally just left the Twitter Spaces AMA at this point. Then the next few minutes of the AMA was just spent on how Alex was just talking over Joe and things like that. So really a whole lot of nonsense at this point. Finally, Simon Dixon came into the picture and he mentioned that all he really cares about is that all of us be made whole again. If we put in 1 or 2 Bitcoins, then we get 1 or 2 Bitcoins back. He doesn't really care what the plan is, mining companies, staking revenue, all that stuff. It doesn't really matter what the plan is as long as we're made whole again. And again, he disagrees with Alex that we just have to put our trust in this guy named Anthony that runs the mining business. You know, he wants to see the blueprint. He wants to see the numbers. He wants to see how the numbers is gonna work out in order for Celsius Network to generate enough revenue to make us whole again. Simon Dixon also mentioned that he himself has been involved in mining since 2017, and he has never seen a $3 billion hole, which Celsius Network has, be filled by a mining operation. So at this point, Greg from the UCC finally came into picture. The first point that he mentioned is that Alex does not represent Celsius Network. Right now, during Chapter 11 bankruptcy, Celsius Network is governed by independent fiduciaries. So Alex himself or former management does not represent Celsius Network throughout the whole process. The second point he brought up is that Celsius Network is indeed missing regulatory licenses. And as they wrap up this Chapter 11 bankruptcy, they need to figure out what licenses they need in order to be compliant. The third point is that some members of the UCC did visit the Celsius mining facility, and at this point in time, they don't really know exactly what the numbers are yet for the mining facility. So they're gonna need some time to really figure this out. So at this point in time, all those numbers that you saw posted online is still pretty inaccurate. They still need some time to figure all that out. Then Zach started to bring up questions to Greg from the UCC. The first point that he mentioned was that most of us agreed that we don't want to be bought out by a company like FTX. FTX acquired Voyager, and us, Celsius Network, we don't want that to happen to us. The second point that he brought up was that majority of us, we don't want to go through Chapter 11, because if we go through Chapter 11, we will only get a portion, a small percentage of our portfolio back. So as much as possible, we do want a legit plan and stay away from Chapter 11. The final point is that most of us do want to get paid in like kind. So if you deposited 1 Bitcoin, you would want 1 Bitcoin back. You don't want to have a scenario where you deposited 1 Bitcoin and it was 20K during Chapter 11 and now it's, let's say, 15, 18K. You don't want that 18K in fiat. You want that 1 Bitcoin back. So that's the whole point that Zach was trying to make. Then Greg responded with his comments. He did mention that the UCC's main vision is to try and get as much money back to the creditors, the depositors like you and me. So he didn't really answer all of the questions that Zach brought up to him, but he just said that we should reach out to the UCC with any questions or concerns that we might have. So again, this Twitter space is quite long, so I will leave it here for part 1. I'll try to extract any more key points that I hear from part 2 of the video, so definitely stay tuned for that. Again, if you haven't liked the video already, definitely give me a like below to help me with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm really trying to get back at things and really restart my financial independence journey, especially given the fact that 90% of my holdings is stuck in Celsius Network. So I would definitely appreciate it if you guys show some support and subscribe to my channel and follow my journey. God bless, and I will see you in the next one.